Is there anybody here to make an appearance who is not on the agenda? Okay. We have no unfinished business, so let's move to new business. Item number 6A, consideration of action on sign permit request by Legacy Martial Arts for a new wall sign at 5417 Monona Drive, case number S011-2018.
So I can give an overview, and then if you have anything to add, you can come up to. So this is required at the Plan Commission level. It was a condition of the zoning permit when the martial arts studio requested expansion a little while ago, so they were required to bring their sign permit back here for Plan Commission approval. Approval is recommended. I had two conditions. One, that any other wall signs currently in use for the business be removed, and that was just to clarify. I think they were using the logo sign on the upstairs building frontage, but in just speaking with the applicant, I understand that that is now going to be the logo that's used in this new sign that they're requesting approval for. So that will be removed. And then in the photo, in the materials submitted, there is a sign above the doorway. That's no longer in use either. So just the cabinet, the logo, and the martial arts letters above the door in the new space would be approved. And then just clarifying number 2, that the temporary signs that we've prohibited in our sign code are prohibited, just for clarification.
Great, thank you, Sonia. Do we have any additional feedback on this item, or would you like to say anything else?
No, she did a good job.
Okay.
Move approval
Okay.
with conditions as stated by staff.
Great. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion from the committee? Chris, do you have anything else? Kathy? Anybody else? Rob? No? We're good? Chad?
Sign looks
Susan?
nice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Griff? Susan? You're okay?
Somebody dropped off those letterings. A friend of mine, I don't know where he found them at. I had them all refurbished and everything else. They, it would have cost me like $4,000 to get those letters. I got them for free. They dropped them off, and I had them all refurbished and everything else. Somebody just said, "Here, it says martial arts. I can use it." So that's how I got them. So we had it all done.
Great. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number B, consideration of action on sign permit request by...
Good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice seeing you guys again.
Yeah. Consideration of action on sign permit request by Starian Financial, 59 Gishholt Drive, for an extension to allow an existing off-premise sign at West Broadway and the West Broadway frontage road, case number S012-2018.
So we were expecting an applicant to be here to represent this item as well, but I don't see anybody, so I'll just give an overview. This off-premise sign was originally allowed as part of the overall WPS campus when WPS Bank was the bank in that location. After the acquisition by Starian, the Plan Commission approved extension of this sign. Otherwise, we would view it as an off-premise advertising sign, which is not allowed in the commercial district, but it was originally allowed as part of that overall WPS campus. So that extension was allowed until January 2018, which was the expected lease end date for Starian Bank as they were searching for a new location. That hadn't happened yet, but they have made progress, and they're currently seeking approvals by the City of Madison for new construction in the neighborhood. So I believe they've submitted and have attended at least one public meeting at the City of Madison and are in progress for that. And they expect construction to be completed, I think their letter said, by June 1, 2019. So the recommendation is for an extension to that date, and that no further extension shall be granted beyond that.
Thank you. Chris?
I have a little bit different interpretation of this sign. It was originally WPS came to us when they decided to start a bank, and they were adamant that to start it, they'd be really hard to find that building. So this is an off-premise sign. And they were so adamant that they even talked about they had the right to put another landscape ground sign along Broadway, and they said, we won't even do that. We won't even ask for it, but we really need this just until our bank is established so that people can find it, because people don't know where the bank is. So after a lot of conversation, we decided to approve that. Now, when WPS sold to Starion, the sign should have been gone by then. Starion came to us and said, well, we're a new bank now. People don't know this is Starion. So we would like just temporarily to keep this for a little bit longer so people understand that Starion Bank really is back here. Because it truly is an off-premises sign, that's all it is. And that's a very small occupant in a very large complex of buildings. Many people would like to have off-premise signs, but they came to us and they said, well, we just need it temporarily until people can realize that Starion Bank is back there. And it was temporary to the point when they came to us, I suggested that perhaps we could get our landscaping back on the landscape ground sign, which is, there's nothing there right now. And everyone in the commission finally said, well, it's going to be there for such a short time, let's not make them landscape. It's going to be there, and it's going to be gone in January of this year. Now, they're coming back saying, well, we're going to be here a little longer, so why don't we keep this signage? Now, I don't blame them for asking. Were the bank, I would go and say, hey, what do we have to lose? All they can say is no. But is this really something that we would allow anyone else to do? This is an off-premise sign. I'm sure we have a lot of businesses up and down Broadway. I remember when Village Lanes came in and they wanted to have a little taller sign so people could see them from Monroe Drive. We said, no, you have to stay with our standards. This is clearly an off-premise sign, and I think the ability to use it is being abused a bit by the applicant. And I think if it really truly was that important to them, they should have been here a month or two before it expired in January and not waiting 6 months later after they get a letter from the city saying, hey, you haven't removed your sign yet. Say, oh yeah, that's right, let's see if we can have it a little longer. So I would not be in favor of this because I think it's long past its original purpose. To keep people, originally WPS owned a major area of real estate there, and they said for us, for all our signage, this is what we want. When they switched to Starion, we allowed it just so people knew the name changed and the Starion customers could find it. But it's not like people are going to drive by and say, oh, there's a Starion Bank back there. I think I'll stop. By now, their customers must know where they're at, their existing customers. It should be very clear to them. So I don't think it's appropriate to leave the sign in.
Okay. Kathy?
I guess I would support the position that Chris has just established. That I'm not sure they should have it.
Rob?
On one hand, I feel like doesn't seem like that big of a deal to grant another year. On the other hand, I think Chris makes very good points, and we wouldn't necessarily grant this to several other businesses had they wanted this. So I would tend to agree with Chris in not allowing the sign.
The side always agrees.
And they're looking to leave in somewhat near future anyways. I don't know how important that bit of wayfinding is for the short interim.
Chad?
I have nothing to add, I would agree.
Okay.
I just had a question. Is there a sign on the building as well? I mean, is there another sign somewhere that designates?
There is, and they do have an off-building sign on Gisholt as well.
Okay,
And the applicants arrived now.
okay. Well, then, I came in thinking it made sense to extend it, but after hearing the history of it, I think it makes sense not to extend it.
Griff?
I understand what Chris is saying, and I agree with a lot of the comments. But my recollection, this history was very complicated. And when WPS applied to have that sign, there were proposals for signs on Beltline, there were proposals all over. And we actually, as a commission, encouraged them to have that sign at that location, that was a better position for it and a better alternative than some of the others that were mentioned. Now I understand WPS is no longer involved in it. Now we have Starion, which is a different thing. But I think it's a little more complicated than we've been talking about. And frankly, since it's a request for a year, I'd be inclined to grant.
It was so important, they should do that.
Chris?
The response I'd have to that would be even when it was WPS, they agreed to limit its life and that it would be daylighted, and that was quite a while ago that it was supposed to be daylighted.
Well, that's true. I don't disagree with that.
Since the party to which this discussion is, Kathy, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that if this was so important to the bank, I would expect someone to be here to plead the case, and when they're not,
They're here now.
Right.
it sends me a message
Right. Right.
that it's not that important.
Since we're in the process of discussing your case right now, would you like to come up to the podium?
Sorry for my tardiness. I was at a neighborhood meeting for this same topic. Oh, different topic, but familiar.
State your name, please.
My name is Brian Fisher. I'm the market president for Starion Bank. Actually, I helped start and found WPS Community Bank back in 2008. No, technically 2009. And it stayed on with Starion Bank.
Okay, thank you. So since you did walk in a little bit late, you probably didn't hear all of the discussion as it relates to this proposal, but if you could just talk a little bit about why this extension is important to you?
Yeah, as I understand, and I apologize, we may have, I don't know if we may have lost track of the fact that there was a deadline for that sign. And initially, our thoughts were, our lease was going to expire. I believe originally it was January of this year. We have subsequently extended that lease with WPS, the owner of the building, and it's taken us a little longer than we probably anticipated to find a suitable location to have our own facility. And as a result, that's what the request for the extension is. We are pursuing another location at this point, something within walking distance, and that's why I was at that neighborhood meeting with some of the neighbors about the new property. So there is a definitive timeline here,
Right.
probably more than there was when the initial approval was put in place.
Okay. So why don't we, now that we have the principal here, do we have any other questions from this group? Chris?
I don't have a question. The
Okay.
comment is that sign was never intended to last the life of the bank. It was, you weren't here, but WPS first came and they started the bank. You were probably with them at the time. That it was intended to let people know the WPS bank was back there. And it was, I said daylight, it's twilighted. What's the proper term?
Sunset?
Sunset.
I think I understood what you meant.
How about sunset?
Sunset, that's the one. Twilight, daylight, sunset,
Yeah.
it's the sunset. It was meant to sunset at a certain time once customers got used to finding the bank. When-
Admittedly, I didn't know that, so sorry.
Right, and then when Starion bought WPS Bank, they came in and asked us to extend it a little bit, said, well, now that we're Starion, our Starion customers really don't know we're back there.
Sure.
We would sure love it if we could have it temporarily for a little longer so that they could find us. I don't know, you probably don't know a lot about Monona's sign code. We don't allow off-premises sign. We don't have signs all over that tell people, oh, you go this way, you can get to Village Lanes. If you come back
Sure.
this way, you can get to whatever, your office. So it was not intended to be there forever, to conveniently say. In fact, the last time Starion was here, we talked about landscaping the sign, and the response from Starion was, we're just not going to be there that long. We don't really want to spend a lot of money even landscaping it. So I believe to extend it now is just really creating wayfaring signage. It's not really, your customers know you're there. The people that bank there, the majority of the people that bank there know where you're at. It's not like we don't know where the Starring Bank is. Now, you'll always have new customers, they have to find you, but it's just like every other business in that center. There's a lot of businesses, you know, in all those buildings back there. And you don't see anybody else with a sign that says, go this way to find ABC or whoever else is back there. So that's the point of the discussion.
Mhm.
It's extraordinary to have that type of signage.
Any other comments or
Comments?
questions?
Would you be willing to landscape the sign in order to keep it until, or
So I guess not being here during the last conversation, I'm curious what type of landscaping would be considered acceptable, and maybe what was the discussion last time on that particular topic?
You want to respond to that since I was not here last time? You- Kathy?
For me, at the moment, I guess I think that you need to make a case for why we should continue to allow it. Because as Chris said, we don't allow off-premise signs, and we did it because the circumstances were unusual. And I think you need to make a case about why we should continue to leave the sign, allow you to leave the sign there. I mean, what are the special circumstances that you feel you need
Sure.
the sign?
Well, I would agree with Chris on the fact that, you know, our customers know, well, a lot of our customers who have been banking with us, they know where we're at. Correct, new customers don't. Being a bank, we are tucked back there a little bit, which probably would, if you make the case, is similar to other businesses, which is why I think your point that why do we have a sign? So I guess I wasn't exactly prepared to make a significant, you know, case for why we would want to keep it. I think that the bank's thought process here is that we have a sign that's in place. We have a definitive timeline now, which I know in the past, I wasn't here for this conversation in the past, but now that we have a definitive timeline, the bank, I mean, certainly would appreciate keeping that. I'm probably not going to stand up here just because I can't make things up, that it's going to make, you know, create a challenge for us in terms of our customers. That location in general is already a challenge regardless if we have the sign or not. I mean, we'd love to keep the sign, knowing that we have that timeline where we won't be there much longer. I mean, we actually we were really conscious in terms of trying to find a location that would be easy for our existing customers to find as well. And we certainly, you know, knew that once it was brought to our attention that sign did expire. I don't really have a great case besides that. I apologize for not being a little more prepared on that topic. Admittedly, I didn't think it was that significant of an issue, and it wasn't that I was dismissing it. It just wasn't portrayed to me that way until I showed up here today.
So, can you tell us, since you knew that, since you obviously discovered that it was sunsetting, you know, your current, the current temporary status was sunsetting?
Sure.
Two things. One is, you know, how long ago did you discover that it was sunsetting?
How long ago?
And that you needed to do this, right? As
How long
opposed
ago?
to-
I believe, well, I got a call from the facility manager at WPS probably within the last month.
Okay.
So it was relatively recent. Matter of fact, I think someone must have reached out to WPS.
My conversations were with Kurt of Starian and with the facilities manager at WPS.
Yeah. Well, what had happened initially, I heard from the facility manager at WPS, and I contacted Kurt and the WPS facility manager so they could have further conversations. That's when it was brought back to my attention that we had this sunset.
And is this impending move, or that you say the move, that is it an absolute sure thing that you are moving out of that location at
So
this point?
I just met with the neighborhood association, or the neighborhood just before coming here, but it still goes through urban design, Planning Commission, and the Common Council, all scheduled for July. At this point, we don't see any reasons for objections. Actually, the neighborhood meeting was very positive. They're excited about it. But to say it's 100%, I can't give that type of confirmation. But it seems like it's all signs are pointing in that direction. And the plan would be to have that construction start as soon as possible, late summer, early fall. Construction throughout the winter with an opening in the spring.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions, comments? Since this is a consideration of action, do I have a motion?
Move denial.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of denying?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, the motion's denied.
Sorry, this is unusual.
Well, I understand. Yeah.
Where are you located?
Actually, it's across the street over by Quick Trip. So, trying to keep it close, so keep it close.
There'll be a lot more convenience for your customers then too.
I sure hope so, yeah. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Item number 6C, public hearing on request of Vibasher Associates and Galloway Companies for approval of a 2-lot CSM for Yahara Commons General Development Plan, case number 2-011-2018.
So I can start with an overview as well, and then we have Mike Marty from Vierbicker on behalf of the applicant to cover any other detail. This is the second CSM for the Yahara Commons development. You may recall the 4-lot CSM that was approved last summer. This one was necessary because there's additional dedication of land to the public for what's called Yahara Lane. And that's coming at this point in time because the city has now completed acquisition of the building that's standing there in the parcel at 6418 Bridge Road. So that was not available before to be incorporated into the original CSM. Any additional land dedication requires Plan Commission approval. So that's the primary reason that this is here. And there's also some additional lot line adjustment between 3 properties here. Typically, that wouldn't require a CSM. There's no additional land division or new parcels being created, but you can kind of see where that's occurring. Lot 1 is the hotel site. Lot 2 is Monona Bank, and there's a little bit of an adjustment in the middle of those properties to the north, where the hotel site needed more land, and it was agreed between the 2 parcels that I think they're going to share a dumpster in the area where it will be removed from Monona Bank in that northernmost portion of their lot. And then an additional area that's being taken from the parcel at 6418 Bridge Road and being added to Lot 1, the hotel site, is another lot line adjustment that's occurring there. Otherwise, the entire Yahara Lane area is 80 foot wide, and that will include the 2 drive aisles and the parking aisles as we've reviewed in the streetscape design. So anything else or questions can be directed to Mike, who prepared the survey.
Mike, you want to come up to the podium?
Probably don't want to, but we can.
Okay.
An additional item to note,
If you could hang on 1 second, get up to the mic and give us your name and.
We have a lot of fans that are watching.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
One additional item to note, we're also cleaning up, there's a lot of underlying parcels that are attached to the bank parcel, and we're just getting rid of all those underlying property lines, so that it's one clean lot and clean title for the parcels in that area.
Just for the record and for the video, could you state your name and position?
Michael Marty, I work with Vierbicker
Okay,
on
great.
behalf of Galway,
Great.
and the surveyor who prepared the certified survey map.
Thank you. Questions? Chris?
The stuff you're cleaning up on the
Mhm.
bank site, now I see a right-of-way grant that it looks like part of it's being abandoned and part of it's not.
What part are you looking at?
It was, maybe if we could have the overheads, please. Just 1 sec, till we can get it switched over, everybody can see. If I point or you point, everybody will see it.
So you're talking about this here?
Yeah.
Right, those are easements.
Yes, but then isn't there a right-of-way that goes between these two parcels, a right-of-way grant, or a cross-easement agreement?
There is a cross easement agreement, and that's gonna be released.
The whole easement, or just the
Mhm.
part of
It'll
it?
be released on the whole easement. I believe they're drafting up a document for that.
Okay, and then this, could we have the projector, please? Thank you. Then what's this?
That's a utility easement for engineering.
And then this?
Same thing.
So those are both engineering
Yep.
easements?
Yep.
And then this one?
That's a right of way that was for access. That's where the drive comes in to Bridge Road.
So who is it a right-of-way for, or what access was it for?
I would have to look at the.
It doesn't make any sense, it's such a triangular
Yeah.
little area.
It coincides with the way the underlying parcel.
It seems it must be perhaps a joint access when the video productions was here and the PDQ was here, perhaps, did they have a, okay, so that might be, and then, I was never aware of this, but there's actually a finger for lot one that goes all the way down in front of that property.
Yeah, that was on the original certified survey map as well.
Really?
You'll see. Yep.
That's unusual, to have a
Yep.
finger like that. What was the intent of that?
I think it was access right away when the DOT did the latest right of way plot.
If it was excess right-of-way, it typically gets vacated to the adjacent property owner.
I wouldn't know the details behind how it was
All right.
conveyed, but it was in the original title work for that
And then
parcel.
This right here, is that the Beden's property that the
Yeah.
city's acquiring or has acquired?
Yeah.
And so basically the Beden's property is all in Yahara Lane or whatever it is?
Correct, except that small sliver on the southern end of it that's going into the hotel
Yeah,
parcel.
It would be just this little hatched, so you can see. This little area here, from here down.
Okay, this
Just that
transfers
little
to the
bit.
hotel and then the rest of it stays as a right-of-way.
Correct.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you, it's
Mhm.
rather complicated
There's
for a
a-
simple CSM.
It's a lot of underlying information.
Oh my goodness, is there?
Anything else, Mike, that you'd like to say before we close the hearing and move to consideration of action?
I don't think so.
Great. Thank you. If you could just stay up at the podium, just
Okay.
in case we have questions.
bet.
So I'd like to close the hearing and move to item D, consideration of action on request by Ivature and Associates and Galway Companies for approval of a two-lot CSM for the Yahara Commons General Development Plan, case number 20112018. Sonia?
I don't have anything additional to add besides what I've reported already.
Okay, great. Any other questions regarding the CSM from the committee? Chris, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Kathy? Rob?
Nothing.
Chad?
I'll move approval.
Okay. Susan, you have anything?
It's second.
Okay. All right, I think we're good. We have a motion to approve in a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 7, reports of staff and commission members. First, the staff report regarding the status of development project proposals.
There was a request to keep item 1 as a standing item on the agenda for occasional updates on how we're doing on the sign code updates, and we do actually have something to report, just that the subcommittee met this morning, and we went through a draft table that's been prepared by Vanderwall and Associates. And the next steps are for Vanderwall to prepare a draft of that table, a final draft, as well as the narrative section of the code that will accompany the table. The subcommittee is going to meet again to review that in further detail, and then we'll come back to Plan Commission.
Yeah, there were a
Anything else to
number of
add?
changes that were made that really are specific to Monona, I would say, things they hadn't
Mhm.
encountered before. Okay.
Yeah. Things like how we treat signs in the right-of-way up and down Monona Drive, or how we might address temporary yard signs on residential lots for, non-commercial free speech like slow down, children live here, or campaign signs and things like that. So I think we made progress on those issues, and
Okay.
you'll see them soon.
Great, thank you.
Oh, goody.
On number 2, potential upcoming items, Farrell Equipment and Supply will be coming in soon for an after-the-fact zoning permit for change in use and improvements that they've made on the site. They did acquire some land from the former BD Diagnostics building on Industrial Drive. Feral Equipment is up on Maygrove, and they purchased some property behind their existing building. They've built up a really, really large, I think it's about 20-foot tall retaining wall out of blocks and filled in that area, and they're using it as an additional storage space, warehousing yard for their business. So we need a zoning permit for the change in use of that land, and we need to review the site plan for things like stormwater, erosion control, and also review the wall for, I would say, some significant structural stability concerns, as well as the aesthetics of it. So we have been working with them for a little while, waiting for them to submit plans. I expect them soon, and they did submit some information, including the engineer's drawings of the retaining wall, which we have Darren Pope at Veerbecker reviewing. So we're waiting for some more information and a complete application before it gets on the Plan Commission agenda.
May I ask, do you recall, was there grid or anything put in there, or is it just those stacked blocks?
I don't know.
For those of you that haven't been here, it's basically that whole parcel behind there, they stacked blocks virtually to the limits and filled it up and gravelled it.
20 feet.
Maybe 15. It's big. It's massive, and I would be very worried about the slope stability. Not to mention the lack of green space, the lack of water quality control or treatment. There's a number of things that were.
Right.
Sounds like a ask for forgiveness.
So does that come to us first or go to zoning first?
It would be here for a zoning permit review. The
Okay.
Plan Commission is the only body that would review
Okay.
it, just like
Okay.
our normal
Got it.
zoning permit review.
Okay.
Riverfront items, the park, the public space. There's an ad hoc committee, I think all of you are aware, and we have, I think, 3 members from this group that are on that. And they've been working for a few months on the details of the design. That does require a zoning permit approval for the site plan. So that will be here for formal approval now that the ad hoc group is finishing up its work. And I believe that will be here on July 23rd. And then at the same time, we'll have another look at the streetscape recommendation from the Plan Commission. We looked at that once, I think in May. Things like the hardscape, the lighting fixture styles and colors for the street. So that'll be here at that same time, and then after that it will go to council on August 6th and then be bid out. Utility work will begin on the street project in October, if all goes well. So for upcoming meetings, item 3, I believe today is the deadline for the July 9th meeting, and I don't have anything. We're just waiting to see where we are in those riverfront items and working to get Feral Equipment in front of us with a complete application.
Great.
Those will probably be on July 23rd.
As it relate, Plan Commission request for information concerning development projects. Yeah, Chris.
Question, any further updates on our variable message reader board at Monona Drive and Broadway?
I do know, since that came up at our last meeting, that April Little has been working with someone at Strand. I can't remember his name.
Okay.
Ken?
Yeah.
You would
Ken.
know who he is.
Yeah. Ken Strauss?
It might be him. But they've been, I think, exchanging some emails on what can be done there. So
I
I
just-
think it's in April's hands.
I get a lot of comments from people that miss that sign.
Mhm. Do we have an update on where we are with stormwater improvements that Galway was supposed to, were they not supposed to be upping their quotient and coming back to us, if I remember? No, they were not. They were leaving.
If they
the
meet their
yellow.
40%, they
Then
would
they
it would
don't
be
need to
approved
go.
by staff, which
Right.
is the condition we
That's-
changed with Strand and Sonia would be
Right, I was
reviewing
trying to
that.
remember whether we had to come back, so have you heard anything more from them? Have they met the?
Nope, I haven't seen revised plans, and they're working with Strand
Okay.
on that information. So once I hear from Strand that they've met their 40% and it meets all of our
Right.
ordinances.
And I believe we left our condition fairly clear that we expected 40%.
Yes, yep.
I do believe so, yes. Okay. Anything else, any other requests for information regarding developments from the committee? Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The meeting's adjourned. Thank you.